Hi, everybody. Welcome to week 14 of our English 1020 online course. Man, can you guys believe it? We are in the home stretch for this class, and it's exciting. We have a lot to talk about in this video. You guys are finishing up Project 3B, which means you're finalizing your infographics, you're getting your presentations ready to go. We are thinking about the showcase, which is next Friday. That's so exciting. I can't wait to see everybody in person and see what our classes have come up with in terms of our displays. It's going to be a really fun day. Don't forget to email me again if you've already contacted me about alternative assignments to do instead of the showcase. That only applies to a couple of you. Everybody else, I'm looking forward to seeing you in person next Friday. So in this video, I want to talk a little bit about your infographic project and the presentations and reflections that you guys are working on this week. I do want to talk a little bit about the showcase and just kind of do a tiny bit of housekeeping because last week was a short week. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday break, and I hope now you're ready to get your game faces on for finals. And for our class, even though we're not doing a final exam, we are doing our final portfolio project, which we'll talk about a little bit at the end of this video. Okay, so I'm going to pull this back to our Canvas view and we'll get started. Okay, so here we are in week 14, our penultimate week, second to last. And it's another fun one. We're finishing our infographics, we're drafting our reflection papers, and creating our presentation videos this week. So we'll dive deeper into that, but first let's look at our weekly assignments. It's kind of a light one if you want to think about it in terms of actual things to turn in. There's really nothing due until Friday when you want to get your infographic drafts posted to the discussion thread for peer review. Otherwise, everything is due at the end of the week on Sunday. I'll show you what I mean. For Wednesday, you want to watch your week 14 video, which you're already doing. Good job. And if you need to, I don't imagine too many people feel nervous about making a YouTube video, but if you do, there's a YouTube tutorial here. Of course, you do not have to use YouTube to do your presentation, but you have to use some kind of video application where you can project your face and an image of your infographic for the presentation piece. We'll talk more about that in a second. So if you need to, you can check out that tutorial that I've posted. Otherwise, there's not a ton of reading, except you want to read the drafts that your friends are posting to the discussion thread, give them some good feedback. You are writing, basically finalizing, composing your infographic. You're writing your reflection paper, and you're composing your video. And once again, I have these suggested dates for getting things posted, but everything has a hard deadline of Sunday. What is that? December 2nd. I had to look at my calendar for a second. So nobody panic. Everybody is going to be just fine if you get everything posted by Sunday. But it will be most beneficial for you to get your drafts posted a little bit earlier to get some feedback on them. Okay, so let's take a deeper dive into this infographic assignment. We haven't really done a deep dive into it. So this project is really kind of showing off a lot of what you've learned in the class so far. You're going to use genre analysis, rhetorical analysis, composing for specific audiences to put this thing together. And it has three parts, right? Creating the infographic itself, which we've been working on now for about a week. It needs to look like an infographic. It needs to function as an infographic. That's why we have Piktochart as an option. Although, again, if you are having trouble with Pictochart, you can always try Canva, which is another free infographic tool. You can use Adobe. You can use whatever you're comfortable with. But Pictochart is free, and I know that it's serviceable. Canva is also free and serviceable. So whatever tool you want to use, you need to compose a digital infographic. Now, your infographic should effectively communicate your argument it's likely going to be the argument that you made in Project 3A to your audience, which is a different audience. So that's the pivot that we made. In Project 3A, we were communicating an argument to a highly academic, formal audience. And now we're pivoting to target a more popular audience. It can be as specific or as broad an audience as you would like to target, but you do need to target them. You need to obviously clearly and effectively show that you understand what an infographic is and can produce one that looks like an infographic in the conventions of the genre. You need to use credible evidence from library-based research. This should not be hard at all because we've been working on it for like 2 months. Maintain a clear focus and organize your infographic. When we were looking at all those samples and you guys were doing your analysis, that was something that came up a lot. The organization of an infographic can make it more or less effective, how you're leading the reader through the points. So it does not have to be the best infographic in the world. It just needs to be an infographic that clearly communicates your argument. Now, when you're thinking about making your infographic, you definitely want to think about how color, layout, the size of different objects in your infographic, how is that getting your argument across? So thinking about what color scheme, the reasons why you might or might not use certain colors, the reasons why you might or might not use a sans serif font versus a serif font, for instance. How far you space words and objects and images apart on your infographic. All of these things contribute to the effectiveness of your argument. And all of these visual elements of composition help you make rhetorical appeals. There's that phrase again, right? Our good old friends, ethos, pathos, and logos. I want you to keep thinking about them. Think about how you could use layout to establish logos. How could you use a graph or a chart to establish logos, or the organization and flow or color scheme to establish ethos? How could color scheme establish pathos? Think about these things as you're putting your final infographic together this week. There's a reason for it. I'll show you in a minute. But before we get to that, your second piece of this project is to write up a reflection paper. Should be a good 2 to 3 pages long, 750 to 1,000 words. And I'd like you to address as many of these prompts as you possibly can. When you look at the rubric, you'll notice that when I'm reading through your reflection, I've got like some very specific prompts in the rubric that I'm going to be looking for you to address. So check out that rubric, make sure that your reflection is aligning with all of those elements. And then when it comes time to create your presentation, this should be simple, fairly straightforward, and I've got some do's and don'ts to help you as you're getting ready to create your presentation video. First of all, everybody breathe. This is not, should not be a very nervous presentation. I just want you guys to very informally talk through the choices that you've made in your infographic. It should not be longer than 5 minutes. And in fact, I'm going to encourage everybody to shoot for 3 minutes. Here's why. There's really only 3 major points that I want you to hit on when you're doing your presentation. And I just talked about them when I was talking through the design flow of your infographic. Here's the don'ts. Don't take longer than 5 minutes. And don't talk through the content of your infographic. So, in other words, do not open up your infographic and say, yeah, my title is how to make a really boring presentation. And my first point, you can see I put this image here because what I was trying to say was, don't do that. We don't have time for that. I already know what your argument is because I and everyone else who's helped you, given you feedback and read through, we've read Project 3A. We know what your argument is. What we don't know is why you chose the color scheme you chose. We don't know why you decided to lay things out in a spaced way that you did. We don't know what you learned as a rhetor from this exercise. So those are the things I want you to address. 3 things, and I'll even show you. They're right here in the rubric. So you can see there's things to look at for your infographic, things to look at for your reflection, your presentation. 3 things. Visual design choices. So that is color scheme, layout, size, text, images, graphs, charts, all those choices. Why did you make those choices? Second point, rhetorical choices. This is ethos, pathos, logos. What were you trying for with a color scheme? What did you want to get across about the argument by choosing this font? Okay, you follow me? You're doing great. Last thing to talk about is your growth as a rhetor or communicator. In other words, and this kind of harkens back to a reflection journal that we did not too long ago, which is, what is the difference between a visual and a text-based composition? What did you learn as a rhetor by translating your research paper that was all text into something visual? How did you grow as a communicator by doing this project? Okay, so those 3 things need to be addressed in the video that you make for Sunday. Okay, let me pull back and I'm just going to talk a little bit about the showcase and then we'll close out this video. Okay, so let's talk showcase, people. I am super excited at the themes that are starting to emerge in our 3 different sections. In one section, you guys are thinking about how it has been to take a writing class online and all the things that you've been able to learn and practice, even though it's in an online environment. So that's going to be a really cool presentation. Another class is just thinking about technology and how technology informs the connections that we can make with each other, with assignments, with different genres. That's going to be really cool too. And my 3rd section, you guys are thinking about more nuts and bolts, I would say, about the writing process itself. What does a writing process look like? How do you build a piece of writing? How have you grown in that ability to build those pieces of writing? So many rich ideas for visuals and cool metaphors that are taking shape for these presentations. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start new discussion threads this week to help us brainstorm the materials that we need, because we're going to need to bring things like tablecloths. We'll have some trifold boards, but what are we going to put on those trifold boards to represent these things that we're talking about? Do we want to produce images of phones that have different assignments or writing on them? Do we want to produce laptops that have different writing assignments on them? What does it mean to make connections between assignments, between people? What does it look like to build a piece of writing, whether you're online or writing with other technology like a pen and paper? So all of these things are really cool. We're going to really start thinking this week about the materials that we need and the assignments that you guys want to bring to Showcase. And then once again, next Friday, December 7th, we're going to have the Showcase. It's going to be in the UGL. Setup will be from 10 to noon, and the Showcase itself will be from noon to 2. Everyone is required to get the 70 points that are built into the syllabus for this. Everyone is required to contribute something to the display and to be at the Showcase, either for setup or during the event, for at least 1 hour. Okay, that's your 70 points right there. Contribute to the display and be there for an hour. Once again, if you'd like to stay for longer than that, I will give extra credit for every additional hour that you're at the Showcase. Just because it's fun and cool, and it's really awesome to be present as audience members for the other classes that are going to be showcasing. But also, it's really important that we have lots of people on hand to talk to the audience that comes by to look at our displays, so that we can talk through what we've learned about taking a writing class online, using technology to make connections, or build a writing piece as we go along. Okay, so look for that new discussion thread. It's going to pop up this week in Canvas, and I'll be a little more active in trying to bounce the ball back and get you guys going with some ideas. Otherwise, have a great rest of your week working on your presentations. And I'm really excited to get going on making our Showcase presentations and finishing our semester really strong with our final portfolio project next week. All right. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.